y'all, it's Jessica from Slappys Swatches. Today I have a look at the Goosebumps Halloween 2017 collection that is available right now from Colores de Carol. These polishes were sent to me for review, and I'll link her storefront and social media down below. I cannot believe that none of these are sold out, so I'll go ahead and jump right into the swatches. So first up is Slappys Tie, and I almost wish that I had swatched these in the reverse Roy G. Biv order because you guys know that reds are my favorite. This is described as a bright blood red linear holographic and definitely one of my top picks. Just extremely beautiful to look at. There's a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how Slappys Tie swatched on my natural nail. So Carol's holographic polishes in this collection do have a bit of a jelly base. They do go on nice and pigmented, really smooth, maybe just a touch sheer. That's really going to help that glitter build up on itself and get you the most payout for your buck. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how it builds up with a second coat. The second coat does bring it a little bit more vampy, a little bit deeper, and of course adds a ton more of that holographic glitter, and I am so in love with this polish. So here's a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. So here's a view from another angle in direct sunlight with a glossy top coat, and this is just everything in the world that I wish for in a red holo. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight. Next up is the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, and this is another just absolute stunner. It's described as an intense burnt orange linear holographic with iridescent orange flaky, so even more in there on top of that gorgeous holo effect. If you guys are a fan of the Longhorns or University of Texas, this is a polish that you need in your collection. So here's a quick look at that first easy coat. Again, lots of pigment, even lots of flakies and glitters, but just a little bit sheer, maybe just shy of being completely opaque. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how it builds up for me with the second coat. The second coat does add depth and even more glitter and brings it completely opaque. Really beautiful finish on this one. In some lightings, especially if you don't have a red near it, it is going to pull a little bit red, very deep, very gorgeous, and super fall appropriate. So here's a look at that completed mani. Had 2 coats before, a glossy top coat, and then once more at a different angle in direct sunlight with a glossy top coat. This is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight. Not to repeat myself, but this is the Cuckoo Clock of Doom, and this is another just gorgeous polish. This polish is described as a murky yellowish green linear holographic. It is very bold and bright. It almost reminds me of kind of a sunflower type yellow, very autumn, super pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how the Cuckoo Clock of Doom swatched on my natural nail. Again, this does have a bit of a jelly base. I know that yellows can be kind of notoriously hard to build up. This first coat is pretty dang pigmented for a yellow. It is still a little bit sheer. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it builds up for me with a second coat. So here's a quick look at that. This pushes this polish right to the edge of being completely opaque. I do still have a little bit of nail line going, so I'm going to go ahead and let this dry and then take the time to show you how it builds up with a third coat. That's definitely my preferred way to wear this polish, and this third coat is just a magic. It does bring it completely opaque, adds a ton more of that glitter, and adds a little bit more depth and just makes it perfect. So here's a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting, and then here's a view from another angle in direct sunlight with a glossy top coat, and I almost feel like that speaks for itself. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight. So next up is Monster Blood, and this is a little bit different from the others. This is more of a crelly or jelly type polish, but with a less of that hollow and more iridescent flakies. I'm in love with this one too. So this is described as a dirty olive green jelly base packed with hollow flakes and iridescent chameleon glitters. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how this applies. In that first coat, it almost looks like a deep, mossy, muddy type green, which sounds awful, but is really just spot on for how this feels, and it's very fall appropriate again. So this first coat's a little bit sheer, but I did get a good amount of glitters on the nail. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it builds up for me with a second coat. So this is another that's going to be down to maybe personal preference. 2 coats is really close to being completely opaque, especially if you go in for maybe a heavier coat. I am going to go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it builds up for me with a third coat. Again, this is my preferred way to wear this polish. It just adds so much more depth, makes it very deep and vampy, and of course gives you even more of those chameleon glitters, which I love so much. So here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath artificial lighting. I think that this one would look awesome with a matte top coat too. So here's a view from another angle in direct sunlight with a glossy top coat. It almost pulls brown in direct sunlight for me. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that direct sunlight. So the last polish of the Goosebumps Halloween 2017 collection is the Horror at Camp Jelly Jam, and this is described as a strong magenta to purple linear holographic with a multi-chrome flakies that shift from blue to violet. So now we're back to more of a holographic finish, but it does have those added flakies for even more interest. Here's a look at that first easy coat. This one glides on smooth and easy. Even with those larger flakies, they were really no issue at all. They were a little bit sporadic on the nail, which I appreciate. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry and then show you how it builds up for me with a second coat. So here's a look at my second and final coat. I did go in maybe a little bit for a thicker coat, but it did pull this polish completely opaque. I had no issues with the finish at all. I do recommend a nice glossy top coat to layer out and smooth maybe any of those larger holographic flakies, but they really don't add much texture at all. So here's a view from another angle in direct sunlight with a glossy top coat, and this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that direct sunlight. So that does wrap up my swatch and review of the Goosebumps Halloween 2017 collection. The grade that's shown here in this lineup was from the polish pickup of last month. I did miss the deadline to get swatches out for you guys, and it's not available anymore, but if you'd like to see it, I will definitely get it swatched for you. So if you're interested in seeing any more photos of any of the polishes shown here, I do have those available on my blog at slappyswatches.com, or you can also follow me on Instagram at slappyswatches. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.